You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Exciting news. This podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, who have been telling Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. Follow them online at oklahomahof.com, and then definitely follow them on Instagram for all the information that you need, because I'm sure that's where you follow us as well, at oklahomahof. Let's get into today's episode.
There we go. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode, photography-related episode today. I am on the call with Mike Mezeul. Did I say that right?
Yeah, man, you actually got it.
Go. So
Nailed it.
Awesome. Mike, obviously, you're a phenomenal photographer. For everyone listening, at Mike Mez Photo, I think it is, right, on Instagram.
Yep.
Amazing feed on Instagram, a lot of storm photography, which us Oklahomans love to see, a lot of sunsets, a lot of crazy tornadoes, and recently, obviously, you were down and in the mix, basically down in Mezeul, right? You had a pretty crazy experience.
Yeah, I think it was the 22nd of April we were down there. It was a pretty wild day, a little bit devastating. It's not necessarily what you want to see, but, for the nature side of it, beautiful tornado, and glad to hear that, things could have been a lot worse down there. So,
yeah, definitely. So how, tell me a little bit how you grew up, and then how, obviously, your kind of relation to Oklahoma and how all that fits in, and just how you got into photography as well.
Yeah, so I'm actually originally from upstate New York. So we moved down here. My father was in the Air Force. We moved down to Fort Worth when I was really young. And storms in New York are nothing like what is down here in the plains. And I remember hearing like the first thunderstorm, and I was in my very awesome glow-in-the-dark Ghostbusters pajamas, hiding underneath my parents' bed, just like trembling, because I'd never heard thunder like that before.
Right.
So I was terrified, and still am to this day, believe it or not, a little scared of these storms. But over the years, I kind of grew into, hey, you know what? The sky is pretty cool. There's a lot going on above our heads that we don't see. And so I eventually became that kid at recess. I would, like, instead of playing on the monkey bars, I'd be laying on the picnic table, like just awkwardly staring at the clouds. And when I turned 15, my interest for the sky and photography started becoming intertwined. And a lot of people ask me how I got into photography. And it's my mother hates the story. My parents hate the story, and you'll understand why in a second here. But when I was 15, when you're 15, you kind of think, all right, maybe I'll get my learner's permit, or maybe I'll get a cheap car, something to cruise around town and start learning how to drive. And my 15th birthday came, and throughout the day there was like nothing different than any other day. No happy birthday, nothing. And then my mother asked me when she was getting ready for dinner, she's like, "Is there anything you want for dinner tonight?" And I was like, "Well, let's go out. It's my birthday." And my mother's like a 5'0" Italian woman. Her eyes like lit up, and she just quickly and just shuffled off and vanished into her bedroom. And about 15 minutes later, my parents came out, and they came out with this black leather case, and they're like, "Happy birthday." And I was like, "That's not a car." And I opened it up, and it was my dad's Yashica film camera from 1975.
Okay.
And I had no interest whatsoever in photography at that time. Never picked up a camera, never even thought about it. And, as a 15-year-old, you're kind of like, well, this gift sucks. All right, this isn't what I was hoping for. But my dad said something very important that just got everything started. And he said, "This is my camera for when I was in the Air Force. I have no idea how to use it, so maybe you can."
Yeah.
And as soon as he said, "I have no idea how to use it," my dad and I have always been a little competitive. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to learn how to use this." And so I went around, and this is film, it's not digital where you get that instant gratification. You have to actually know your stuff or it gets expensive. And around, and of course didn't have a car. So I photographed very manly things that were around my parents' house, like, ladybugs and flowers in their garden and stuff like that. But I took down with each frame notes on this little yellow notepad of like what my settings were, what the conditions were, and I had no idea what all the numbers on the camera meant. But then I would save up my money and get my film developed at the very prestigious Eckerd drugstore, and I was still too poor. I couldn't get it the same day, so I had to wait like a couple days for the film to come back, and I learned that way. And then, I kind of started thinking, all right, well, you know what? There's not much I can go and walk to around here where I live. So my parents had a 2-story house. What if I go around and I take out all the screens on their upper level and I photograph these storms that we get and all the lightning as they come towards my parents' house? And I have boxes of film or 35 millimeter prints now that show like all the lightning and the storms that my parents would get and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's how I learned. And then finally, when I got my car, I'm like, peace, I'm out. I'm hitting the road. I'm going to go find some storms. And so, yeah, I kind of tied the two together. And ever since then, it's grown from, not only storms, but I do a lot of volcanoes and also landscapes all around the world. So that's kind of like the nutshell of how everything came to be.
If you scroll through your Instagram feed and just like, this is like some of the best experiences you must have had, and obviously you're behind the camera and capturing these moments, and it's, I'm sure, super intense for you at that moment because you're like, I don't want to miss out on this, right? Like it's not from a photographer's perspective. Sometimes you may have 10, 15 seconds to capture that moment, but like when you get it and you see those images, like that's incredible, right? And you've been all around the world because of it.
Yeah, this is not a job that I ever in a million years would have thought I would have a career. Like I actually have an undergrad degree in criminal justice. I was going to law enforcement, and then I realized I was doing that career for somebody else, not for me.
Yeah. And
then I went and I got a master's degree in strategic communications, and now I travel around the world teaching photography and doing different assignment work. So yeah, I mean, I would never trade those experiences for anything else because they made me who I am today. But it does hurt a little bit when you pay the student loans for something you're like not necessarily using. Yeah. But my job now is I teach all around the world, and then I'll do different assignment work for different publications, and that is just extremely cool. And it's not the best paying job by any means, but I would never trade it to sit in an office and making, the big bucks and missing out on these awesome life experiences.
Right.
So, and actually, I don't know if anybody can see this, but on my left arm, I have the latitude and longitude of where I first saw the Northern Lights. And on my right arm is where I documented Kilauea erupting. So basically the coolest thing you could ever see at your feet, and the coolest thing you could ever see above your head. So yeah, the memories that have come with this, these opportunities have been incredible.
Yeah. So where did you, you get that camera and you're still taking photos and taking photos of weather, but so where do you go to school? And like, I know you said you were doing it for somebody else, but I'm sure that you still just had to decide to go to school, right? So where and why did you choose where you went?
So actually, I originally started off going to OU, and I was doing atmospheric science. And when that all came about, you kind of, you'd be very passionate about something, but you also have to understand you still need to make a living, and it's very hard with the amount of money that you put in towards that degree to make a living after student and all that, from what you get out of it. So I decided, hey, I took some atmospheric science classes, but then I decided to come back down to Texas and pay the in-state tuition, which was much cheaper, and go that route. But with the storm chasing stuff, I have taken atmospheric science classes over the years, and what was most important for my growth in that, learning how to safely chase and understand the atmospheres. The first probably 3-4 years I started chasing, I chased with another guy who had been chasing for about 30 years. Okay. So he was kind of my mentor and showed me the ropes and all that stuff, because there's no way I would ever go out there just without any knowledge of the weather, especially like I said, what we get here in the plains. Like it could kill you. So
yeah. What kind of I guess what was that first kind of like legit chasing experience like?
So I a lot of people don't understand with chasing. There's a lot of driving and there's a lot of boring time. It's not like Twister where everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's excitement galore. What was it like inside the tornado? I'm like, no, I sat at a Dairy Queen for about 7 hours waiting for, the blue skies to get clouds so I don't get, a sunburn.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first chasing experience I had, the first chases with, his name was Ken, and he passed away a few years ago. But with Ken, we didn't really get the big storms, the big outbreaks.
Right.
So it was nice. It was actually kind of relaxing. He kind of eased me into it. It was like, okay, hey, here's this kind of storm, here's this kind of storm, here's this kind of storm in this environment, and so on and so on. But on May 29th, 2004, up in Kansas, near Anthony, Kansas, that's when I got my first real storm chasing experience. We saw 13 tornadoes in one day up there, and it was a whole roller coaster of this is amazing versus holy crap versus something is going wrong with me versus I want to get closer. So yeah, it was a definite roller coaster of emotions to see not only the supercell, but these tornadoes that were just so incredibly powerful and beautiful, but yet also something that inside you're like, I should be scared of this. Right. It's funny because I've seen a lot of storms, a lot of tornadoes since then, and every tornado is pretty much the same emotionally because it's like I said earlier, I'm still a little scared because I feel like if you're not scared, you don't respect what you're looking at. And so yeah, it's just so wild because it's beautiful, it's frightening, it's stressful at times, it's exhilarating. Sometimes you drive all the way from Dallas to Wichita, Kansas, you get a Dairy Queen and you turn around and you come home and you wonder why you just did that.
Right.
But yeah, it's pretty awesome what you see out there.
So how many miles on the car right now?
We are at 63,600, and it's 3 years old. So not too bad. Not too bad. I've already put on 4,000 miles in the past few weeks, just chasing. So,
and then your season, right? For chasing is it's end of early March to June-ish.
Yeah, it varies each year, and with everything that's kind of going on, the climate being kind of wonky at times, it's really March through June. I saw a beautiful tornado last year on the 4th of July up in Wyoming, and so yeah, it's kind of that time frame. But really May and early June, especially where we're at, it's I mean, how it is. It's have a plan and kind of keep your eyes to the sky kind of time of year.
Yeah. So for the other months, that's when you schedule out, traveling trips and that's when I guess you're traveling the world looking, on assignments and people are sending you around the world stuff.
Yeah. So I typically, I'm self-employed. So that's kind of nice to have that freedom. I take off pretty much April, May, and early June to chase. And then the rest of the year, like this year, before all the craziness that's going on, this year, oh, you still there? Sorry, I lost you there. Okay. This year, it's been February I was in the Arctic Circle in northern Norway, and then down in Death Valley right after that. And then I'll go to Glacier National Park in June, and then August is going to be down in Tonga. So then September is Iceland, October is back up to South Dakota for Badlands. So it's all over. And then this year it's the first time I'm actually getting to go to Antarctica. That'll be down in November or December. So yeah, it's a whirlwind after storm season. It makes you wonder why you pay rent, but still need a place to live.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
Yeah, no, it's funny because everybody's like, oh, I want your job. And I'm like, it's fantastic. But like, I think last year was 56 flights. So it it's pros and cons. The grass is always greener on the other side. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but the airports wear you down.
I was going to ask you, like, what was that first kind of paid, travel out of out of the state? Like, what was that like, and where was it to?
It was a little nerve-wracking. It was to Iceland. So with that, like, it was actually pretty funny how it came about, because I had an image that went viral, and it got seen all over the world, which was really cool. And then I got an email from this guy. I kid you not, his name is Thor, like Thor, the God of Thunder. And when I got the email, it said, he introduced himself, and he said, hey, I live in Iceland. I teach photography in Iceland. Would you like to come teach with me? And I was like, let me think about that. Yeah, like, hold on a second. And so, like, I agreed to it, and I was like, he's like, hey, come on out. Let's set a day for you to come out. I'll show you around the country, get you familiarized with it, and then we'll schedule, some classes. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should Skype this guy first. I have no idea who he is. Like, this guy could be like some mass murderer, like, all right, let's Skype. So I Skyped him, and when it first connected, it was very choppy, because where he lives in Iceland, he's literally out like the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So the connection's not that great. And so it froze on his face, and he's this bald guy, big old Viking beard, and it froze on him in like the meanest of faces, like the I'm going to murder you in your sleep face.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh gosh, and I like closed it out. And I was like, man, this is probably a really bad idea. And I was like, I can't not call him back. Like, that's not me. So I called him back, and I was totally gonna like be like, hey, yeah, I thought about it. Not gonna, I have to pass. And then it comes through, and it's really choppy again. And all of a sudden, like, it finally comes through in like a good connection. And he's like, oh, hello. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's like the kindest guy ever. Like, just so down to earth, give you the shirt off his back. Yeah. And so we had a great conversation. I went out there, met him, showed me around, and we hit it off. Really good friends. He's actually come out to the States. He came out last year to come storm chasing with me. And but yeah, the first experience out there was really cool to get out there. And it was nerve-wracking in a way, because I was like, man, I really hope I don't need a visa, or like all my work stuff's in order over here. But to finally get out there and know everything was good, and to get to teach the participants of the class like how to photograph the aurora borealis, and how to hike up here to this awesome view of this incredible waterfall. Like, I remember taking some time during that workshop and just kind of like pinching myself and be like, this is my job. Like,
yeah,
this, how did this come to be? And like, how am I so blessed to have like this as my career? And I've been back to Iceland 6 times now, and started, I've taught now in Norway, I've taught in Canada, down to Patagonia and Chile and Argentina. And so it just keeps expanding. It's pretty cool.
What was that picture that went viral?
So it's funny, because I actually hate the picture.
Right.
I so like for photography, like I love to capture something that's true. Like, I don't like to Photoshop. I don't like to create something it wasn't. But there's a lunar eclipse, and I was like, everybody's going to go out there and shoot a photo up close of the moon, and they're all going to look alike. So how do I make this look different? So I went out and I photographed each moon phase throughout the entire like 8-hour or 9-hour span of the whole transition, and composited. It was shot over bluebonnets. So the scene is true, but then I composited all the moons together so you can see the whole sequence. And it went viral. Had like, like 600,000 shares or something like that. And yeah, like I said, it's cool that it went viral. It really is. I'm not a huge fan. And I was very transparent with my audience. Hey, this is a composite. This is what it, looked like over time. But I'm all for the real and the factual images. So, but it's still cool. And I did 3 more of them just because they were so popular. But yeah, it was a cool, fun image. So,
and that was like your kind of like social media has just said to you, "Welcome to the scene," and now
Yeah.
all the rest is kind of gone from that moment.
Yeah, it's funny because I've had, like I said, a couple images that went viral, and that one went viral, and that was the one that was a composite. And I literally said in the caption, "This is a composite. This is not a real image."
Mhm.
And then I had another image that I shot on Kilauea when Kilauea was erupting, and I got the lava, Mars, Venus, the moon, an iridium flare, and the Milky Way all in one shot. And it is one shot. It is not photoshopped. It's true as anything. I've done a whole blog write up on it, showed people the out of camera image, and people were like, "Oh, there's no way this could be real."
Yeah. Like, thanks.
Oh. So the real image on social media is getting crap for being quote unquote fake.
Yeah.
And the fake image, people are like, "Oh, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen."
Well, social media.
Yeah, no joke. No
Yeah.
joke.
So what, like, so you've, I mean, seeing a volcano for the first time erupt, like, what's that experience like?
It's butt puckering. I don't know if there's any better way I can put it than.
Compared to a tornado, is it like, I mean, I know it's not moving, but
Yeah, it's completely different. It's so hard to compare. So the first time I saw lava like actually flowing and Kilauea erupting was back in 2016. And I hiked out. It took 13 miles round trip to hike out to the Poly, where the lava was coming from the vents up there. And I didn't. Looking back on it, it was not the wisest choice because I didn't have the knowledge. I had asked several people who have been on the volcano before for their tips, but I didn't have a mask with me for sulfur dioxide, which is like lava. When you get on a volcano, you realize lava is like the least of your worries. Like you're worrying about explosions, you're worrying about sulfur dioxide gas, you're worried about parts of this where lava tubes were falling and caving in under your feet. And so yeah, I got out there and when I asked a few people who'd been out before, I'm like, is lava hard to see? And like, yeah, in the daytime, it is kind of hard to see. It can be kind of silvery, but you'll know when you found it. And I was like, I don't know what that means. And like, you'll know. And I remember when I finally came across, I turned this corner and the heat was just unbearable. And I was like, oh, this is it. Yeah. And there were, sure enough, multiple flows of lava coming down the Poly. And they all sounded like Rice Krispies coming down, which oddly made you very hungry. But it was the coolest thing to see. And all those oh crap moments all the way out there were so worth it. And then you had a bunch of those oh crap moments on the way back because everything was pitch black. But that time that you actually got to spend with the lava was really cool. But I did photograph Kilauea again erupting in 2018 when it was the big eruption in Leilani Estates. And that was a completely different field. That was completely different type of eruption, very violent eruption. You're seeing it's kind of like a tornado. I can relate it in that way.
Yeah.
You see a tornado over an open field. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But the moment it starts hitting a town and you start seeing people's lives get destroyed and property and possibly, people being killed, completely different field. So with Kilauea erupting in 2018 and went through Leilani Estates, which is a huge neighborhood, destroyed over, I think it was 800 homes. And so literally I covered it by land, sea, and air, and seeing, it from land and from the air, literally just engulfing people's homes. You have a different feel for it.
Right.
Still beautiful from the natural aspect. It's still beautiful, but internally you have a little bit of a heavier heart for what you're seeing.
Yeah, definitely. And was that kind of just a personal thing out there, like personal trip, or was that paid gig?
No, that was on assignment for National Geographic Spain.
Okay.
So went out there, did two trips out there. The first was at the end of May, and then I went back out there at the end of June.
Yeah.
Because the eruption actually started 2 years ago yesterday.
Okay.
And it lasted from May through, I believe, mid-August. So it was quite the eruption.
Yeah.
So yeah, but pretty wild experience.
Is that kind of how most of them are? Like they're through the National Geographic, wherever they may be?
Sorry, one more time.
Like with the paid gigs that you have, like with the travel and the weather ones, are they through like a kind of like a National Geographic affiliate like that? Like how's all that work?
So it could be through multiple publications. Like I've worked with multiples over the years. So like I've worked with National Geographic a couple times, just doing contract work for them or image licensing. I've worked with BBC Magazine, Yahoo, Weather Channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I do a lot of work with Nikon. So I do a lot of either projects or speaking engagements for them. So yeah, it's a variety. In this industry, you have to kind of wear multiple hats and not just rely on like one outlet or one publication for all your work. Or if you do, you're not going to make it.
Sure.
It comes few and far. So,
sure. Is there any places? I know you mentioned you're going to get to go to Antarctica this year. Is there any other places that you haven't been to yet that's really on the list?
Tonga. So I'm going to Tonga in August. Fingers crossed with all that's going on. We'll be out there for 11 days and documenting the humpback whale migration from underwater. So I'll be doing. I'll be out there each day swimming with the whales and documenting their migration and their breeding. And so that I'm looking forward to. And I've always had a fascination with whales, like ever since like Free Willy with as a kid.
Of course. Yeah.
So like this is something that like I have been looking so forward to.
Wow. Okay. And like, I mean, everything, like, it's not just like, you take pictures of like a night sky with a moon and then you're underwater. Like there's so many different things you're taking photos of, which is really cool to know the difference and how you'd like, just from someone who's getting into photography, like the ways they handle the camera and everything else. Like it's pretty impressive stuff.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. You gotta have fun. And, for me, fun is finding different angles to cover different subjects. Like a lot of people don't know this, but I shot NHL and Major League Baseball for 5 years. So I did that for 5 years. I did some journalistic work as well. I still, to this day, cover live concerts. So, like, I've gotten to cover quite a few, like over 300-400 bands from that. You have to find different ways to survive as a photographer on different subjects. Not saying shoot everything. There are definitely things I don't like to shoot and I won't shoot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like trying to always dip your toes into a little bit different subject or finding a different creative angle. I think that's the fun part about it.
Yeah.
So,
Is there one thing that you haven't shot that you really want to shoot, like like a subject or just a topic or something like that?
Man, that's a hard question. There's so much actually.
just the amount of stuff that you've covered. Like, is there anything that you're like, oh, I haven't had a chance to do that yet? I'd love to do that.
Yeah, I think I'd love to get out to Africa to cover some of the wildlife out there. And that's been done. Obviously, there's a lot that hasn't been done, a lot that has been done. But it'd still be like a little personal bucket list to get out there.
Yeah.
There is, I'm fascinated with volcanoes now, so I want to start exploring more of the active volcanoes once it's safe again to travel.
Yeah.
So there's like the Yazur volcano, which is down in Vanuatu, which is kind of near New Zealand. There's the Fuego volcano in Guatemala, which I was actually supposed to go document in March, but couldn't make it down there. Yeah. So yeah, I think in the future it's going to be more volcanoes and trying to show the beauty within those, just like with storms.
Yeah. For me, like I'm a huge car fan. So like my kind of two favorite photographers that I look at, Larry Chen, who's like one of the best photographers. And then there's another lady, I'm from the UK, so there's a lady back home called Amy Shaw. She shoots Nikon as well. And she's just she was a wedding photographer and just started taking photos of cars. And she's really, really good at it.
Nice.
I'll send you those later just to see.
Yeah, please do.
But yeah, I mean, it's awesome. Like so many things you can do, and just I got my camera right here, so there
you go.
So it's ready to go, and just getting out, taking photos, and I think the one thing that I've taken away is you just got to go do it, right?
Yeah, that's the thing is the image isn't going to come to you. You have to get out there And it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because like with Kilauea, the latest eruption in 2018, I was so on the edge because I was like, this is so different than anything I've ever dealt with. This is extremely dangerous. And I think I drove my girlfriend nuts because I was like, yeah, I'm going to go. I'm not going to go. I'm going to go. And then she finally pulled me aside one day and she's like, you've got the opportunity to go. You've got the opportunity to do it for publication. You're going. Like, she almost literally booked a ticket for me. And yeah, when I got out there, I was so glad that I went and, got that opportunity. But had I sat there and just kind of, all right, I'll wait for something to happen here. Now you got to be ambitious. You got to go where the images are.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. And I guess with storm season now kind of in full swing, and I think today in Oklahoma we've probably got some hail coming in. And obviously a recent experience that you had, and I read, the comment that you posted with that amazing rainbow photo that you caught of the Mezeul. Sadly, the two people passed during that tornado, and that's the bad side of the destruction of these things. And if anybody wants to read, Mike's post, I'll share a link to his Instagram and you can read what happened. But it's times like that, I guess, that really like open your eyes a little bit, don't you? It's like, oh, this is great, this is cool, but people actually still get hurt.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that it's a double-edged sword. You go out there, you want to see the beauty that nature has, but then you also have to be ready to accept what the power that she has and what you're going to see. And for me, and I know quite a few chasers, our chase ends when we come across something like that. Yeah. Like we're not going to keep chasing. Like we tried to help the guy that we came across, and kind of a quick side note. I found out 2 days ago he actually survived. He was
amazing.
Pronounced dead at the scene, but I guess he was revived. But he's currently down here in Plano at a hospital. He's still in intensive care. But that was really nice to hear, because we had thought otherwise.
Sure.
But our chase stops, and we try to help as many people as possible. Whether it's just emotionally talking to them and making sure, hey, don't worry, help's on the way, or pulling people out of the rubble, or we have first aid kits, CPR kits, stuff like that with us. So yeah, ideally, tornado goes through a beautiful green field and you get a rainbow and a unicorn off in the distance and you call it a day. But you also have to be willing to see and accepting to see that you may witness something a little bit more dramatic than that.
I have a friend of mine last year spent last year's storm season doing a documentary with a couple of the News 9 up here, Val and Amy Castor. They spent, Matt Payne, his name is, he's a travel photographer, and he spent the whole basically 3 or 4 weeks with them. And he said the craziest part about out chasing storms is the fact that it's not the storm itself, it's the idiots, the way he put it, chasing, who have no idea what they're doing, blocking all the roads and getting in the way. It's like they almost crashed the truck more times than they got hit by any storms. So. Yeah,
it's become a problem. I've been chasing now it's been 20 years. And it's, back in, 2004, if you ran into somebody else on the storm, you're like, "Oh, what are you doing out here, man?" Like, "Hey, high five! Like, how you been? Like, isn't this cool?"
Yeah.
And now I'm more scared of the amount of people out there than the actual tornado or the storm, because running into New York City style traffic jams in the middle of Western Kansas, and you're getting people that are thinking they're above the law and running stop signs, and I've seen people out there running red and blue lights. It's like there's some sort of emergency official, and blocking roads, like you said, and not paying attention and not having that weather know-how or weather sense to where there's a lot of scary looking clouds out there. But I see people all the time looking that way when really the tornado's behind them, wrapped in rain, and they have no idea. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of opt out of the bigger storms or the bigger storm days because of that now. or I'll go to, like, you can say, hey, Oklahoma City, go here or see a tornado. That's the kind of day it's going to be. Or you can say, I'm going to go down to Southwest Oklahoma. You may or may not see a tornado, but if you do see a storm down there, you're probably going to have it all to yourself because everybody else is up in OKC.
Sure.
So yeah, that's kind of how I plan my days now is, I first look at what the main target is and, like, all right, how many people are going to be out there?
Right.
Because for me, it's the tornado. Tornado's icing on the cake. If I see a pretty storm or some cool features on the storm or something that's visually appealing, that's a win.
Yeah.
If I see a tornado, I'm like, oh, cool. All right, that's nice too. But, there's so much more to storms that are photographically rewarding.
Yeah.
Than just the tornado.
What storm have you done? Much storm chasing in Europe and overseas?
No, not on purpose. So
Fair enough.
not on purpose. No, I haven't actually. I know that Germany and Italy get some beautiful storms, but I have yet to actually spend some time over there for.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
One day, maybe once I can get on a plane safely again.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Maybe flights will be cheaper. We'll see. Maybe not.
Right.
But no, mate, this is I really appreciate your time. It's been awesome to share some of your stories and to have some time with you. Wish you all the best for the rest of the storm season. Safe travels, and if you're ever up in this way, up in Yukon, and stop in for a coffee, let me know. You're always welcome. So
absolutely, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll post everybody's Instagram. Post the link to your Instagram and everything below on your website. And then hopefully this recording of this call has been pretty good, so we can make a YouTube video out of it.
Awesome, man.
Find out. But mate, really appreciate your time, and all the best for the rest of the storm season. And then safe travels. Hope you get to go to Tonga and stuff. So
awesome, man. Well, thank you, dude. And I appreciate the opportunity. You guys stay safe, and if you ever want to ride shotgun, let me know. I need somebody to hold a big steel pole out for the lightning photos, all right?
I would, yeah, right. I'd love that. Except the steel.
Yeah, we'll have to get you out there. Keep in touch, man.
Awesome. Look forward to it. Thanks, mate.
This podcast was presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, who've been telling Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. Follow them online at oklahomahof.com and definitely on Instagram at oklahomahof. Catch you next episode. Cheers.